Why do you say that? Does your twin have a claim on that stone? Mr. Chaudhary suddenly went limp, as though all the energy in his body had been drained out. He leaned against the arm of his sofa and sighed. Yes, he said, slowly. Yes, he does. You see, it was Kedar who found the stone first. I saw the temple, but Kedar was the one who noticed the stone fixed on the statue. What happened next? Well, I took it from him. I pestered and badgered him until he got fed up and gave it to me. In a way, it was the right thing to do for Kedar. Kedar would simply have sold it and wasted the money. You see, when I learned just how valuable the stone was, I did not tell Kedar. To be honest, when he left the country, I felt quite relieved. But now, perhaps he has come back because he couldn't find any job abroad. Maybe he wants to sell the stone and start a business of his own. Feluda was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Do you have any idea what he might do next?" "No, but I do know this. He will come and meet me here. I have stopped going out of the house, and I did not keep the stone where I was told to. There is no other way left for him now. If he wants the stone, he has to come here. Would you like me to stay here? I might be able to help." "No, thank you. That will not be necessary. I have now made up my mind. Mr. Mitter, if Kedar wants the stone, he can have it. I will simply hand it over to him. It's simply a matter of waiting until he turns up. You have already done so much, putting your life at risk. I'm most grateful to you. If you send me your bill, I will let you have a check. Thank you. You're right about the risk. We nearly got run over by a car. I had realized a while ago that one of my elbows was rather badly grazed, but had been trying to keep it out of sight. As we rose to take our leave, Feluda's eyes fell on it. "Hey, you're hurt, aren't you?" he exclaimed. "Your elbow is bleeding. If you don't mind, Mr. Chaudhary, I think Topesh should put some Dettol on the wound, or it might get septic. Do you..." Yes. Mr. Chaudhary got up quickly. "You're quite right. The streets are filthy, aren't they? Wait, let me ask Obonish." We followed Mr. Chaudhary to Obonish Babu's room. "Do we have any Dettol in the house, Obonish?" Mr. Chaudhary asked. Obonish Babu gave him a startled glance. "Why, I saw you bring a new bottle only a week ago," he said. "Don't tell me it's finished already." Mr. Chaudhary gave an embarrassed laugh. "Yes, of course, I totally forgot. I'm going mad." 5 minutes later, my elbow duly dabbed with Dettol, we came out of the house. Instead of going towards the main road, where we might have caught a tram to go home, Feluda began walking in the opposite direction. Before I could ask him anything, he said, "My friend Ganapati lives nearby. He promised to get me a ticket for the test match. I would like to see him." Ganapati Chatterjee's house turned out to be only 2 houses away. I had heard of him, but had never met him before. He opened the door when Feluda knocked, a rather plump man wearing a pullover and trousers. Felu, what brings you here, my friend? Surely you can guess? Oh, I see. You need not have come personally to remind me. I had not forgotten. I had promised, didn't I? Yes, I know, but that's not the only reason why I am here. I believe there's a wonderful view of North Kolkata from your roof. I would like to see it, if you don't mind. Someone I know in a film company told me to look around. They are making a film on Kolkata. Okay. No problem. That staircase over there goes right up to the roof. I'll see about getting us a cup of tea. The house had 4 stories. We got to the top and discovered that there was a very good view of Mr. Chaudhary's house on the right. The whole house, from the garden to the roof, was visible. A light was on in one of the rooms on the first floor, and a man was moving about in it. It was Kailash Chaudhary's father. I could also see the attic on the roof. At least I could see its window. Its doors was probably on the other side, hidden from view. Another light on the second floor was switched on. It was the light on the staircase. Feluda took out the binoculars again and placed them before his eyes. A man was climbing the stairs. Who was it? Kailash Chaudhary? I could recognize his red silk dressing gown even from this distance. He disappeared from the view for a few seconds and then suddenly appeared on the roof of his house. Feluda and I ducked promptly and hid behind the wall that surrounded Ganapati Chatterjee's roof, peering cautiously over its edge. Mr. Chaudhary glanced around a couple of times, then went to the other side of the attic, presumably going into it through the door we could not see. A second later, the light in the attic came on. Mr. Chaudhary was now standing near its window, with his back to us. My heart began beating a little faster. Mr. Chaudhary stood still for a few moments, then bent down, possibly sitting on the ground. A little later, he stood up, switched the light off, and went down the stairs once more. Feluda put the binoculars away and said only one thing. Fishy. Very fishy. He did not speak to me on our way back. When he gets into one of these moods, I don't like to disturb him. Normally, if he is agitated about something, he starts pacing in his room. Today, however, I saw him throw himself down on his bed and stare at the ceiling. At 9:30, he got up and started to scribble in his blue notebook. I knew he was writing in English using Greek letters, so there was no way I could read and understand what he had written. The only thing that was obvious was that he was still working on Mr. Chaudhary's case, although his client had dispensed with his services. I lay awake for a long time, which was probably why I did not wake the following morning until Feluda shook me. Topshe, get up quickly. We must go to Shampukur at once. Why? I sat up. I rang the house, but no one answered. Something is obviously wrong. In 10 minutes, we were in a taxi, speeding up to Shampukur Street. Feluda refused to tell me anything more except what a cunning man he is. If only I had guessed it a little sooner, this would not have happened. When we reached Mr. Chaudhary's house, Feluda saw that the front door was open and walked right in without bothering to ring the bell. We crossed the landing and arrived at Obonish Babu's room. The sight that met my eyes made me gasp in horrified amazement. A chair lay overturned before a table, and next to it lay Obonish Babu. His hands were tied behind his back. A large handkerchief covered his mouth. Feluda bent over him quickly and untied him. Oh, thank you. Thank God. Thank you, he exclaimed, breathing heavily. Who did this to you? Who do you think? He sat up, still panting. My uncle, Kailash Mama did this. I told you he was going crazy, didn't I? I got up quite early this morning and decided to get some walk done. It was still dark outside, so I switched the light on. My uncle walked in soon after that. The first thing he did was switch the light off. Then it struck my head and I fell immediately. Everything went dark. I regained consciousness a few minutes before you arrived, but could neither move nor speak. Oh God, he winced. And Kailash Babu? Where is he? Feluda shouted. No idea. Feluda turned and leaped out of the room. I followed a second later. There was no one in the drawing room. We lost no time in going upstairs. Taking 3 steps at a time, Kailash Chaudhary's bedroom was empty, although the bed looked as though it had been slept in. The wardrobe had been left open. Feluda pulled a drawer out and found the small blue velvet box. When he opened it, I was somewhat surprised to see that the blue barrel was still in it, quite intact. By this time, Obonish Babu had arrived at the door, still looking pathetic. Who has the key to the attic? Feluda demanded. He seemed taken aback by the question. That's with my uncle, he said. Okay, let's go up there, Feluda announced, grabbing Obonish Babu by his shoulders and dragging him up the dark staircase. We reached the roof only to find that the attic was locked. A padlock hung at the door. Anyone else would have been daunted by the sight, but Feluda stepped back, then ran forward and struck the door with his shoulder, using all his strength. On his third attempt, the door gave in noisily. A few old rusted nails also came off the wall. Even I was surprised by Feluda's physical strength. The room inside was dark. We stepped in cautiously. A few seconds later, when my eyes got used to the dark, I noticed another figure lying in one corner, bound and gagged exactly like Obonish Babu. Who was this? Kailash Chaudhary? Or was it Kedar? Without a word, Feluda released him from his bondage and then carried him down to the bedroom. The man spoke only when he had been placed comfortably in his bed. Are you the... He asked feebly, staring at Feluda. Yes, sir. I am Pradosh Mitter, the detective. I suppose it was you who had written me the letter. But of course, I never got the chance to meet you. Obonish Babu, could you get him some warm milk, please? I stared at the man in amazement. So this was the real Kailash Chaudhary. He popped himself up on a pillow and said, I was physically strong, so I managed to survive somehow. Otherwise, in this 4 days, Feluda interrupted him. Shh, 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 shh. You must not strain yourself. No, but I have to tell you a few things, or you will never get the whole picture. There was no way I could meet you personally. You see, for he captured me the day I wrote to you. He dropped something in my tea which made me virtually unconscious. He could never have overpowered me in any other way. And he began to pass himself off as Kailash Chaudhary from that day. Kailash Babu nodded his head sadly. It's my own fault, Mr. Mitter. I cannot blame anyone else. Our entire family suffers from one big weakness. We are all given to exaggerating the simplest things and telling tall stories for no reason at all. I had bought that stone in Jabalpur for 50 rupees. I have no idea what possessed me to tell Kedar a strange story about a temple in a jungle and a statue with that stone fixed on its forehead. He swallowed the whole thing and began to eye that stone from that day. He envied me for many reasons. Perhaps he could not see why I should be so lucky, so successful in life. When he appeared to fall in everything he did. After all, we were identical twins. Our fortunes should not have been so very different. Kedar had always been the black sheep, reckless and unscrupulous. Once he got mixed up with a gang that made the counterfeit money, he would have gone to jail, but I managed to save him. Then he went abroad after borrowing a great deal of money from me. I was glad. Good riddance, I thought. But only about a week ago, I came back home one day and found the stone missing. I never imagined for a moment that Kedar had come back and stolen it from my room. I rounded up all the servants and shouted at them, but nothing happened. 2 days later, I wrote to you. Kedar turned up that same evening and returned the stone to me. He was absolutely livid, for by this stone, he had learned that it had no value at all. He had been dreaming of getting at least 100,000 for it. He said he needed money desperately. Would I give him 20,000? I refused. So he waited till I ordered a cup of tea, then managed to drug me and carry me up to the attic. When I woke, he told me he had keep me there until I agreed to do as told. In the meantime, he had pretended to be me and he had tell my office I was on sick leave. He obviously did not know you had written to me. Feluda said. So when we turned up, he took 10 minutes to write a fake anonymous note and then gave us a cock and bull story about an imaginary enemy. If he didn't, he knew I would get suspicious. At the same time, my presence in this house or in his life was highly undesirable. So he tried to threaten on the telephone. Then he got in a car and tried to run us over. Kailash Chaudhary frowned. That makes perfect sense, he said. What doesn't? is why he left so suddenly. I did not agree to give him a single paisa. So why did he leave? Surely he didn't leave empty-handed. No, 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 shouted a voice at the door. None of us had seen Abhinash Babu return with a glass of milk. Why should he leave empty handed? He screamed. He took my stamp. That precious, rare stamp is gone. Feluda stared at him, wide eyed. What? He took your stamp? Yes, yes, Kedar Mama has ruined me. How much did you say it was worth? 20,000. But Feluda turned to Abhinash Babu and lowered his voice. According to the catalogue, Abhinash Babu, it cannot possibly fetch more than 50 rupees. Abhinash Babu went visibly pale. The Chaudharies are prone to exaggerate everything to make an impression, Feluda continued. And you are their nephew, so presumably you inherited the same trait. Am I right? Abhinash Babu began to look like a child who had lost his favorite toy. What was I supposed to do? He said with a tragic air. I spent 3 years going through 4,000 stamped envelopes. Not one of them was any good. Shah. Except that one. Oh, alright. It wasn't much, but people believed my story. I got them interested. Feluda started laughing. Never mind, Abhinash Babu, he said, thumping his back. I think your uncle is going to be suitably punished, and that should give you some comfort. Let me ring the airport. You see, I had guessed he might try to escape this morning, so I rang Indian Airlines, and they told me he had a booking on their morning flight to Bombay. I began to suspect your uncle only when he said he could not remember having bought a new bottle of Dettol just a few days ago. The police had no problem in arresting Kedar Chaudhary, and Abhinash Babu's stamp was duly returned to him. Feluda was paid so handsomely by Kailash Babu that even after eating out 3 times and seeing a couple of films with me, he still had a substantial amount left in his wallet. Today, as we sat having tea at home, I said to him, Feluda, I have been thinking this through and have reached a conclusion. Will you please tell me if I am right? Okay, what have you been thinking? It's about Kailash Chaudhary's father. I think he knew what Kedar had done. I mean, maybe if father can tell the difference between identical twins, perhaps that's the reason why he was throwing much murderous glances at his son. That may or may not be the case, but since your thoughts appear to be the same as mine on this subject, I am hereby rewarding you for your intelligence. So saying, Feluda coolly helped himself to a jalebi from my plate. That's the end of Kailash Chaudhary's jewel. Thank you.